Hello everyone. Today's July 5th. It's currently 7:49 Texas time. Decided to come on live early just cuz I wasn't doing anything. I said, "You know what? Let me just jump on live a little bit earlier." I said 8 or 8:30. I'm like 10 minutes ahead before 8. So, I said, "You know what? Let me just go live and get on with tonight's topic cuz we have a lot and I kind of want to make this just like an hour and a half stream. But let me share the live out. So I don't know. I have notify me or whatever it is, and it's supposed to automatically say like when I go live. And I guess it's not doing its job. Dang you. Notify me. But I promised you I was going to give you some updates on the Kerrville flooding. Here, let me make my screen different. Oh, there it goes. I'm going to give you some updates. I'm not going to look at my Discord because now everything has updated. So we're going to just go by what they're saying. I hope everyone's having a good day. I hope y'all had a good 4th of July. I stay home because I was sick. I was live with you guys. We were live for like 3, almost 4 hours. But I'm going to do my disclaimer before I forget. Anything I say is all alleged. In my opinion, it's for entertainment and educational purposes only. I get my trusted sources from trusted news stations, resources. I'm not responsible for anyone else's comments, actions, or what they put online. So yeah. So I'm gonna show you something with NBC News. We talked a lot about the flooding yesterday. I was supposed to cover the Golden State Killer, but the flooding caught my attention more. So I was like, let me just talk about that. So last night we talked about it. We talked about this one specific person named Rachel who was stuck in her home, and the water was rising up in her home. Her dad was in a hospice bed. Thank goodness Rachel and her family and her father, they all made it out safely. The United Cajun Navy went out and saved them. The United Cajun Navy is here in Texas. It's mostly in Central Texas right now. But this morning there was more rain that came, and Georgetown and Seguin got hit with very bad flooding. I'm currently in San Antonio, so I'm like 35 minutes away from New Braunfels, Seguin area. I'm an hour away from Kerrville, and I'm probably like 2 hours from Georgetown. But here in San Antonio, we just got like light rain. They said tomorrow the sun's supposed to come out, so hopefully the sun comes out. We are under a flood watch until 10 p.m. tonight, so in a few hours it's going to expire that flood watch. But right now it's just cloudy. We did get rain, little bit of rain, not a lot. But I think we're all here in Texas. I can speak for everyone here in Texas. I think we're ready for some sun and some winds, because they said the winds help move the water. So I think we're all ready for some sun. I don't think we're ready for the mosquitoes, because I could just know there's probably going to be a lot of mosquitoes. But I'm going to show you the NBC News. This is live coverage. It was literally updated 19 minutes ago. There's now at least 48 fatalities. There's still dozens of people missing from the summer camp, and there's still many civilians who are missing, not only in Kerrville. We don't know about what's going on with Georgetown and the Seguin, New Braunfels area, because they did tell them to evacuate if they're near the river. So yeah. So as the days go by, of course, these numbers, I hate to say this, sadly might rise up more, just because now the water's starting to go its way out. This is the video I was going to show you of the house. Let me pause it. But yeah, it's going to take a few weeks for this water to move out and, die down or whatever. But Our heart and prayers are with the families. I've been keeping you updated on my Discord. If you're not on my Discord, you should join my Discord. I put a bunch of posts. I gave you guys information regarding some of the little girls from the camp who were missing. 3 of them, I believe I put, were found sadly deceased. And there were civilians who are missing that we talked about yesterday. We talked about, I think it was Bill and Serge. The man with his cute little dog. Okay, they ended up finding his dog. His dog didn't make it, but they're still looking for Bill. There's a lot of people. Join my Discord because I'll be putting more updates on the Kerrville flooding in the Kerrville flooding section. I'll be putting all the updates, the updated list of people who are missing, resources, many other things. Even if you're in Seguin or Georgetown, I'll be putting that in my Discord underneath the Kerrville flooding section. Because tonight we're gonna talk about 2 different topics, but I just wanted to come on here and give you guys like a quick little update on the Kerrville flooding. So yeah, let's hear this video.
In Central Texas tonight, a catastrophic flood emergency. At least 13 people are dead, according to authorities, including children. And at least 20 kids are missing from a summer camp after a sudden surge along the Guadalupe River, north of San Antonio.
It's going to be a mass casualty event.
Authorities saying 14 helicopters are in the air. One rescuer dangling from a chopper, appearing to help someone up in a tree as flooding rages below. Cars lifting off the ground, swept away by the powerful waters. These steps leading to a house that's no longer there.
This is our house right here.
Another pushed down the road.
The water started to rise very rapidly. Rapid.
Along the river, a series of summer camps. The La Junta camp for boys posting that everyone is safe, but some girls at Camp Mystic trapped.
Now there are 20-some that aren't accounted for. We're praying for all of those missing to be found alive.
You can feel the anxiety here as parents are waiting to hear word about their child. We're told that these children are being transported by helicopter, the only way out of the camp, as parents wait to hear they've returned safely.
The county judge pressed on why the camps weren't evacuated.
We knew there was going to be a problem. Why weren't these camps evacuated?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
These camps were in harm's way. We knew this flood was coming.
We didn't know this flood was coming. Rest assured, no one knew this kind of flood was coming.
The tight-knit Texas towns across Kerr County are popular recreation areas. Len Clendenin and Rory Higgins were camping, asleep in their cabin when the water started rushing in.
Everything happened so terribly fast. There was mobile homes, travel trailers, cabins, vehicles, people in the water. It was devastating.
They took this video showing a building from the campground washing away. Their beloved border collie Ripper is still missing. Flood threats were in place overnight. Because drenching rain flooded the riverhead, massive amounts of water got pushed downstream. At one point today, National Weather Service data showing the water rising nearly 30 feet in 1 hour. This region near the Guadalupe River is no stranger to floods. And in 1987, rapidly rising water killed 10 people.
Buses stalled out and the water was it was real deep, so we were going to try to get out and get to the road. It wasn't too far back, and it started washing people away.
Today's story means one area park that normally looks like this is instead underwater. It was set to host 4th of July fireworks tonight. What was supposed to be a holiday celebration is now a nightmare.
This came at night when people were asleep in bed. Please pray for our food.
Ryan.
In Southern California, wind whip.
Okay. I think they just showed the video from yesterday. But as of right now, I can literally refresh this page real quick. It's live updates. So literally 24 minutes ago, it's now 48 are deceased, and there's still many people missing from campers, from animals, from adults. Many are missing. Now, this was 25 minutes ago. So 4 people have been confirmed dead in the Travis County and 13 reported missing. The death toll in Travis County has risen to 4, according to the county's public information. Additionally, at least 13 people have been reported missing as of this evening. That brings the statewide total death to 48. An update earlier tonight confirmed fatalities in Kerr and Kendall counties. And yeah, that was just my quick little update on you guys on the Kerrville flooding. Like I said, I'll be posting more updates on this as the days go by, as the hours go by. Anything that comes, I'll be giving you guys some updates. But tonight I do want to talk about 2 different topics. We're going to talk about America's Lost Boy, the boy in the box. And then we're going to continue off where we left off last night when we were talking with about what Janelle had sent us about the child care man who now 1,200 kids have to get tested for STDs. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. And then we're going to talk about next week's topic and things like that. But if you guys want more information on the Kerrville flooding, I heavily suggest you join my Discord. It'll be under the Kerrville flooding section, and I'll post all the updates and everything there. I don't want to keep adding, at everyone on Discord and people are busy, so I'm just going to put it there. But we are going to talk about the boy in the box. If you have not heard of this case, we're going to talk about it. Now, I do have the original flyer of when he came out missing and people were looking for any information on him. Okay, can you hear me? I think you can. Okay, yeah, because my little thing's moving. Okay, my mic died. Yeah, it's a very sad story. Hi, Kitty Q, by the way. Sorry, my mic died. Let me see. Let me pull up the article so we can read some of it, and then I'm gonna show you the flyer that I found. I don't want to show his autopsy pictures. You can hear me? Okay, good. Because it died. I don't know what happened to my microphone. Okay. So this case goes back in February of 1957. So a boy in a cardboard box that once housed a JCPenney bassinet was discovered. The child was naked and had been beaten prior to his death with fresh cuts on his face. The youth man who found him didn't report his finding to the police due to fear of his animal traps being confiscated. But several days later, a student discovered the boy and reported it to police. Once the report has been received, an investigation was opened and the boy's body was removed from the woods in Fox Chase. I believe this happened in Philadelphia. He has believed to have been between 3 to 6 years old due to malnourishment. He had numerous scars. There was only one on his chest and around his groin, and an L-shaped scar on his chin. He had a round scar on his left elbow and another on his ankle that was believed to be made to insert a needle for surgical procedures. Despite his appearance, the boy's nails had recently been trimmed. He'd been wrapped in a blanket, and he had remnants of baked beans in his stomach. His hair had been cut badly, and there were long strands of hair found on his body. He also had been immersed in water shortly before his death, and his feet and hands were still wrinkly. Nearby, a tan scarf and yellow flannel shirt were found. Additionally, there were black shoes near the crime scene, and they didn't fit the child. The police fingerprint the little boy and hoped that someone would be able to identify him. The discovery of the boy in the box gained huge media attention in Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia Inquirer was the newspaper to print the 400,000 flyers. Hundreds of police recruits combed the area for clues related to the child, but the discovery of the handkerchief led them to a fruitless journey and found them no closer to finding the boys or the killer. They're finding the boy no closer to finding the boys or the killer's identity. A cap was also found at the scene and gave investigators a momentary lead. The blue Kodori hat with the leather strap was found to have been made by a shop in South Philadelphia. The owner remembered the man who bought it and said he was between 26 to 30 years old, but he was never located. As the years went by, facial reconstructions of the boy were created, and one was even made of his potential father, but no one came forward to claim the boy. 65 years was too long for a kid. Yeah, it took 65 years to figure out who he was. This is the original documentation. I don't want to zoom up because I don't know if YouTube will take me down if I show you the picture, but this is the original information wanted flyer that was there. So it basically says the photos depicted identified boy whose nude body was found in a cardboard carton in a thicket near Susquehanna and Villiers Roads, Fox Chase, Philadelphia, 3:45 p.m. Oh, my bad. It moved. Monday, February 25th, 1957. Death caused by head injuries, multiple bruises over entire body. Death estimated to have occurred from 3 to 2 weeks prior to discovery. No clothing found. Body covered by blanket. Man's cloth cap found adjacent to the body. Description of the boy, 4 to 5 years old. Height, 40 and a half. Weight, 30 pounds. He has blue eyes. He's fair complexion. Medium to light brown hair. Creditly cut, fresh set of baby teeth, no deformities, L-shaped scar underneath chin, no vaccination scars, tonsils not removed, no bone fractures, fingers and toenails neatly clipped, clothing size probably 4, shoe size 8D. Blanket made of cheap cotton flannel patterns with diamonds and blocks in green, rust, and white colored faded. Overall size 64 by 76 inches with sections 31 by 26 missing. Clean, apparently washed recently, mended with poor grade cotton thread on home type sewing machine. And I think that's a picture of the cap. The man's cap was a 7.5, leather strap in the back, royal blue cordy material in excellent condition with large roll of paper tissues in sweatbands, manufacturer's stamp and lining of crown, Robin Bland Eagle cap, 2603 South 7th Street, Philadelphia. Carton size 15 by 7 by 35. Originally contained a white bassinet. Price was $7.50. Sold at JCPenney's, 69 and Chestnut, Upper Darby, PA, between December 3rd, 1936 and February 16, 1957. It is requested that citizens and law enforcement, welfare, and child caring agencies supply information concerning boys of this age and description known to be in custody of parents who would abuse them. Also, the disappearance or absence of any children answering the description. Newspaper, radio, television publicity requested. Notify Homicide Unit, Detective Headquarters, City Hall, Philadelphia at any time or night, in person or telephone. Things like that. So basically, they put out that flyer because they wanted to know information on the kid. They wanted to know if this was somebody's little boy that they were missing. Like Kitty Q said, it took them 65 years to figure out who he was. But I got this from True Crime Edition. I did have other articles. So it talks about a foster home. So a few years after the boy's body discovery, Remington Bristow, an employee of the medical examiner's office in Philadelphia, went to the police with a new theory. He had been at the estate sale of a foster home located a mile and a half from Fox Chase and noticed a J.C. Penney bassinet at the property. While a common item, Bristow also saw blankets that were drying on a clothesline at the home similar to the one wrapped around the boy. Bristow's theory was that the child lived in a foster home and was the son of an unwed woman whose stepfather owned the facility. Whether the boy was accidentally killed or not, Bristow was adamant that he lived there. However, no connection was ever formally made by police. So as the years went on by, of course, you're going to hear like the theories, the speculators who are going to be like, oh, I saw him here or I saw him there. But 65 years later, we'll figure out who he is, but we still don't know who killed him or what really happened. A woman named Martha, in February of 2022, a woman came forward claiming to know the identity of the boy. She told police that her mother had bought the boy in 1954, and his name was Jonathan. She claimed that the boy had been sexually and physically abused during his 2.5 years with the family, which eventually came to a head one evening over dinner. Jonathan had vomited the baked beans that were put in front of him, and in rage, Martha claimed her mother had beaten the boy and slammed his head into the door until he was unconscious. She said her mother then gave him a bath where he died. To conceal the boy's identity, the mother cut his long hair and forced Martha to help her dispose of his body in the Fox Chase area. While putting his body in the car, a man stopped and asked if they needed help with the heavy box. Martha stood in front of her license plate. Her mother told him they were fine, and the man drove off. A confidentiality account was later given by a male witness. In 1957 that allegedly verifies Martha's story, but the video is no longer available on Court TV. Really? So Court TV had it? I mean, I could have looked that up. I didn't know that. Police tried to verify Martha's story, but neighbors who lived next door to the family didn't recall ever seeing a young boy at the property and told police that Martha had a history of mental illness, which was verified by medical records. The investigation into the family went no further. Very sad. At least the people cared enough to give him a proper burial site, not just a boy in a box. Great. Yeah, they did. I saw they gave him a good burial site. I have that part. I think they celebrated his 71st birthday too. With advances in forensic beginning, the boy was exhumed in 1998 when DNA was extracted from one of his teeth, and his body was moved to Ivy Hill Cemetery in Cedar Brook, where a plot was donated. In 2008, a renowned forensic artist came up with a new theory to believe that the boy in the box was in fact raised as a girl. Frank Bender, whose work in the facial reconstruction field helped identify mass murderer John List, considered that the hurriedly cut hair and the child's plucked eyebrows were signs that the boy may have been concealed as a female. I'm also certain that they've been missing the boat because they've been showing a boy, and he is a boy, but the boy, I believe, was dressed as a girl. Bender later created a sketch of the boy as a young girl instead, hoping to ignite new information in the case. So this guy's basically saying, like, well, what if he's a girl? You know, he's a boy, but they made him act like a girl. And then prior to that, Martha was giving a very detailed story. They said they verified with neighbors, and neighbors said they've never seen a young boy on the property. And they said, you know, Martha has mental health issues, and they even confirmed that Martha did have mental health issues, but the fact that she said it to the T, like very detailed, makes you wonder, like, okay, could this have had happened to him allegedly? And then later on, a male witness came out and allegedly he verifies Martha's story. They said it was on court TV. I don't know if it's on court TV. I kind of want to look for it today and see if that's true or not. If it's removed, then I can't find it, but I still want to find it. So that's the sketch Frank had made. In 2016, two writers contacted investigators to request the boy's DNA be compared to a person in Memphis, Tennessee. The family believed the boy could have been a relative to theirs, but in December 2017, the results showed there wasn't a connection between the two samples. The boy's grave is always surrounded by flowers and stuffed animals placed by locals and who's heard of his story. His headstone reads, America's unknown child, with the smaller inscription, Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy. To date, he's received over 3,000 flower donations. This is his gravesite. The boy's case has been reopened numerous times over the years, but his identity still remains a mystery. It does not. I actually have the article where they identify who he is, but I just got that from Crime Time website. Now, we are going... Oh, maybe I should zoom it in a little bit because it shows his picture, his autopsy picture, and I don't think I can show that. And it still does it. Just don't do that. Jeez, computer. Oh my god. There we go. So this is from americasunKnownChild.net. So we are going to read a little bit of it. I don't want to show his picture because I'm pretty sure YouTube will take me down. And out of respect, of course, for the boy. You search up the boy in the box, automatically that picture is going to show up. But still, I'm going to show some respect, and YouTube might take me down. In life, almost nothing is known about the small child found decades ago in a dump site. But in death, he would be embraced by homicide investigators who had seen it all except the boy in a box surrounded by trash and rusty car parts, and generations of Philadelphians would be drawn to him long after he was in the ground. Some still pray for his soul. The cardboard box and the first of what could come to be his 3 graves held him into brief, perhaps a few days or weeks, after months on a cold slab. In the city morgue, he was buried in grave number 191 in Potter's Field alongside prisoners, unclaimed bodies, and body parts. He came to his final resting place in 1998 when his body was exhumed for DNA testing and then reburied in a private cemetery. At first glance, the man who spotted the boy thought it might have been a discarded doll, but it was a boy of about 4 left in a box marked fragile and handled with care, dumped in a reddish stone lot in a desolate wooded area in the city's northern fringes. The nude, badly bruised body covered by a blanket wasn't even big enough to fit the box. So the boy in the box, as he came to be known, was found by police February 26, 1957, near a unpaved road in the city's Fox Chase section. They were alerted by a college student who had come across the box the day before. By some accounts, the student had been hunting rabbits. By others, he was spying on the wayward girls residing at the Good Shepherd school home nearby. Investigators assume would only be hours, maybe a day or so, until they knew the boy's identity, other than the occasional drifter. Philadelphia police rarely had cases where they couldn't put a name to a body, especially of a child, but they hadn't seen anything like this before. A boy alone in the world, seemingly without family or playmate to mourn his passing. Sam Weinstein, the second police officer to arrive at the scene, still recalls the sick feeling he got when he saw the child thrown away like that, sparing space with beer bottles, cigarette butts, and a broken toilet. It's something I would never want to see again. Weinstein, a rookie in 1957 and now retired. I'm a combat veteran of World War II, and I've seen lots of mayhem, but this touched me more than anything I've ever saw before. Detectives dressed the boy and propped him up in a sitting position for a postpartum photo, hoping a more natural appearance might spark some recognition. So hundreds and thousands of flyers with a picture blanketed Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware. They went up in the post office and courthouses, groceries and liquor store, racetracks, orphanage. They even went out with monthly gas bills. Lieutenant Kenneth Kazu, who is the head, I think they meant to say who's in charge of Special Investigations Unit of Philadelphia Police Department Homicide Division, was just a toddler when the boy died, but says he recalls hearing stories and rumors about the case as he grew up. It took on life as its own, Kazoo said. The little boy should have been easy enough to identify. He had blue eyes, light hair, and fair complexion. He had a slender build. He was nearly 41 inches tall and weighed 30 pounds. He had very short, choppy haircut, and some distinctive moles and scars on his face and body. His hair had been roughly cut in a hurried way, perhaps after death. Small clumps of hair were still on his body. The palm of his right hand and both feet were inexplicably wrinkled and rough skin, indicating that may have been a lengthy immersion of water before or after death. I mean, hearing that, it could be. Maybe allegedly Martha was right. She said it herself. The mom beat him. So she says in her account allegedly that her mom beat him, threw him in the shower, and he already had died. When you get in the shower, your hands and feet get all wrinkly from the water. Maybe, allegedly. Maybe Martha was right. We don't know. I'm trying to zoom it out just a little bit. Okay, hang on. There we go. In a scientific journal entitled "Who is This Boy?", the noted anthropologist wrote that the child appeared undernourished and may have been sickly for a year prior to death. Though his exact age couldn't be determined, the article stated he was about 4 to 5, and his ancestors likely came from northwestern or west central Europe, possibly Scandinavia, West Germany, England, or Scotland. The box he was found in had originally contained a baby bassinet, which sold for $7.95 at JCPenney. A dozen white bassinet had been sold in that shipment, and most of the buyers were accounted for. The police, including all 270 rookies in the academy, were ordered to conduct an exhaustive search for clues in a 12-mile area surrounding the dump site. Linked by handheld radios, they searched the woods and fields, abandoned buildings, cars, vacant homes, and garages. The FBI gave the case top priority. The American Medical Association sent out a bulletin hoping to match the boy's scars with any medical treatment he may have received. Detectives asked children in schoolyards whether a little boy who used to play with them had suddenly stopped coming around. Even the blanket, faded cotton with a pattern of diamonds and blocks, was analyzed by texture experts. The search for the little boy's identity and his parents extended across the country and into Canada, Mexico, and Europe. These guys did everything humanly possible in an investigation, said the Philadelphia homicide, Tom Augustine, who now oversees the case. He said police aren't any closer today than they were back then. So basically, they did everything they could to identify. They went back and they checked, JCPenney's. They're like, okay, who did you sell the bassinet to? Do you remember who you sold it to? They went to school playgrounds and they're like, hey, do you remember playing with this little boy? And all of a sudden, like, he went missing. They put out flyers and everything all the way from Canada to Mexico and Europe, things like that. They really wanted to find out who this little boy was and if his parents were looking for him in any way possible. A lot of people shop from catalogs back then versus Amazon today. Things were more uncommon back then. Yeah. Kitty Q's right. Kitty Q is right. Back then they didn't have Amazon, so like Kitty Q said, they shop from catalogs. But that's crazy. $7.95 for a bassinet at JCPenney's, and now they're like what, $200, $300 in 2025. Crazy. A son, a brother, and a boy in a dream. It isn't that no one came forward. Many sought to claim the boy or offer tips about his possible killer. He was identified as a child of various parents. The brother of a Marine, a kidnapped victim. One man dreamed he had killed the boy, but police released him after questioning. One of the most morbid tips pointed to two iterate carnival workers. The Korean couple acknowledged letting 6 of their 10 kids die of neglect and malnourishment and then dumping the bodies as they traveled cross country. The body of one child was sunk in a lake, another tossed in sulfur mine pit. But the boy in the box wasn't one of theirs. Police investigators from the medical examiner's office formed a tender cocoon around the boy. They served as pallbearers, carrying the little white casket to the grave. July 24th of 1957. Detectives chipped in to buy the tombstone, and only one in all of the Powder's field. The boy was buried in clothes belonging to a detective's son. His grave epitaph reads, Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy. So, like I said, a lot of theories, a lot of speculators are going to come out, and they did. They came out. You had one that said just many different parents coming out and being like, oh, that's my child. Or he was the brother to a Marine. He was a kidnap victim. You even had one where a man came out. He said, oh, I dreamed of unaliving this boy. But police, they saw the inconsistencies, didn't believe him, and they let him go. Another tip was the carnival workers. There was a couple who acknowledged they let 6 of their 10 kids die of neglect and malnourishment. And as they were going from city to city, they were just dumping bodies here and there, like of their kids. And they were saying, one of the child's body was sunk in a lake, another was tossed in a sulfur mine pit, but came out to be the boy in the box did not belong to that couple. Did they arrest the couple? I mean, they just admitted they, neglected their kids. I mean, did they arrest them? That's what I want to know. It ended up being in July of 1957 that the police and investigators ended up burying this little boy. They paid out of their own pocket. They even dressed him up with clothes that belonged to a detective's son. They paid for the tombstone and everything. So what they could have done, they didn't do. Now, some people would probably just cremate the boy and throw his ashes wherever. Some would probably just throw him in a random gravesite and put just, you know how they put like those little sticks like, oh, somebody's buried here. But no, these officers actually had a heart, and they buried this little boy. They actually used their own money and actually gave the little boy clothes from their own son. They gave him a proper burial, even though they're still trying to figure out who he is. They're trying to figure out who his parents are. They're just trying to figure out what happened to this little boy. Just how anyone in 1957 at that time wanted to know. People only made $2 an hour or so then, though. Really? Oh, yeah. That's crazy. Crazy time it was when you could just get away with shit until, now when you are able to go back, depending on the evidence collected. Yeah. What is this? 43. Oh, I talked about that. The 43 that passed away. Okay. There was many theories about his death. The case has always been investigated as a homicide. Dr. Joseph Seltman, the city medical examiner at the time, ruled the case death was multiple head injuries, but the manner of death was never determined. Countless stories written about the case refer to the boy as a murder victim. Some say he was beaten to death. One theory, which took into account the bruises on the boy's head, was that whoever gave the boy his choppy haircut killed him accidentally by holding his head too tight. Every theory you can imagine has been thrown out there, Augustine said, but one of the people closest to the case always believed the boy died naturally, more than likely as a result of an accident. Just a little bit. U for unknown. Remington Bristow was working the overnight shift that night at the city medical examiner's office, where he was an investigator. Cases were assigned alphabetically back then, and Bristol's letters were in M, N, O, P, Q, and U. The night Bristow picked up a U for unknown. Bristow, who died in 93, spent 36 years on the case. In many ways, the story of the boy's death and the investigator's life were intertwined. Bristow felt the case remained unsolved because whoever left the body, probably the parents, feared that they would be charged with homicide. But he was convinced that the boy hadn't been murdered. He had been bathed and wrapped in a blanket. He had a fresh haircut. His nails were clipped, his arms folded gently across his chest. Over the years, the investigators would say the boy had been laid out for burial and disposed of in a, quote, loving way. Someone had intended to bury him, Bristow believed, but was scared off. It had been a homicide, Bristow said. The boy would have been tossed in a bag and left alongside the road. The boy's parents shouldn't fear him. He was quoted as saying, because if nothing else, we shared the experience of a loving boy thought to be in death. So basically, the medical examiner is like, I don't think he died. I don't think this is a homicide. I think maybe someone was trying to bury him and they got scared. He doesn't think the boy was murdered. I mean, they bathed him, they wrapped him in a blanket, they gave him a fresh haircut. His nails were cut, chipped, they clipped them. His arms were folded gently across his chest. But I don't get it. Like, if you're gonna bury your little boy, you wouldn't put him naked. You know what I'm saying? Or in a box. I don't know how much caskets cost back then in 1957. I mean, maybe that it could be a possibility. His parents were trying to bury him. Maybe they didn't have money to bury him. So they just put him in a little box and they said, let's go bury him. Maybe they were going to dig like a hole and somebody scared him off. They left the boy and they left. I mean, we don't know. It's many different scenarios and theories. But I don't get why he would be naked though. Yeah, I call bullshit on that. He wasn't laid out decently. Yeah, I don't think you can do that though. Like I said, if a bassinet costs like $7, maybe a casket was like $10. Maybe. Now they're like thousands and thousands of dollars. I don't know how. I have to Google it. How much they cost back then in 19. Let's Google it right now. How much? Oh, much did a? Oh. What was it? Philadelphia? So. So it doesn't give me a price for 1957, but in 1960 they said a funeral cost $708. Oh, is it cost of an adult? No, a child. How do I Google it without the FBI coming for me? This is for entertainment purposes only. For a child. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. But I mean, it does say right here, what happens to a body if no one can pay for the funeral. It says if you can't afford to bury or cremate, you can sign a form with the county coroner's office and the state will bury or cremate the body for you. This will be at no cost. You won't have any say in where or how. This is from a chapel. So, I mean, if the parents didn't have money, I mean, they could have gone to the, what did I say? The medical coroner. And they could have said, hey, we can't pay for them. Maybe the state could have cremated him or buried him for them. If the parents were really trying to bury this little boy, in my opinion, I'm not buying this. I don't know. There's something just off with how the medical examiner said it. He doesn't believe. He was convinced the boy hadn't been murdered. I don't think so. I don't believe him for a second. I don't, because you don't just do that. I mean, especially like you're throwing a little boy who's I don't know, something's off about this. I just don't believe that, like, they just threw him like trash. They threw him where the trash was. I mean, there was like trash all around him. I don't think they were trying to bury him. I don't think, there's something off about it. Folded gently across his chest and just discarded. Nah, they could have dug a hole with their hands, if no shovel. A hole cost $0. They discarded him like trash, in my opinion. Yeah, I believe you. I don't think. Now, I think he was, in my opinion, I think he was murdered, and they just threw him like trash, and they went on with their life, and they just never came out. Now, who did it? I'm not sure. It could have been his parents. It could have been maybe he was kidnapped. I don't know. But I don't know. There's something off about that. I don't think they were getting him to be buried. No. It doesn't make no sense. I mean, he's thinking like, okay, if it was a homicide and they did kill him, they're thinking like, oh, they're going to put him in a plastic bag and just throw him in the middle of the garbage. They did. He was in the middle of the garbage when they found him. He was with piles of trash. He was in a freaking box, like naked. Like, they threw him like trash. Jeez. If a funeral cost approximately $700, then the casket was probably $200, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't give me it says it's unavailable to give me the price, but a chapel site said that if you couldn't pay for the funeral, the city would do it for you, but you just have no say or how on when you're going to bury him and where you want to bury him. I guess the city picks where they're going to put him. I don't believe, what's his name? Bristol? I don't believe Bristol. Bristol kept files on the case at home and in his car. He spent countless hours off the clock tracking down leads. He traveled the country, spent his own money, used up his vacation time, and went to a psychic named Florence. Oh, okay, yeah, no. No. If you believe in psychics, I'm not judging you, but some psychics are wrong. He went to a psychic named Florence who tried to make connection by holding staples from the cardboard box in her hands, a plaster mold of the boy's face, commonly referred to as a as a mask. Was made in the medical examiner's office. Bristol carried it around in a battered briefcase along with evidence and police and autopsy reports. He visited the boy's grave, sometimes pulled stray weeds and leaving flowers behind. I don't know that I understand why this one case of all thousands he worked for touched him so deeply, said Bristol's grandson. But Bristol, who's like his father, has been a funeral director, was raised with a deep respect for the dead. The investigator who had lost a little girl of his home when she was just an infant was offended by the idea that that child will go to his grave nameless. Maybe he was just obsessed with the case. His parents did it, one of them anyways. He wasn't in anyone else's care but theirs. Yeah. That's true. Well, to me right here, it just says the medical examiner, this guy right here, was very, very, not obsessed, but he was so drawn to this case. The boy stayed in the Potter field for 41 years. When it came time to exhume him for DNA testing, area residents sought to keep him in the ground. He had become part of the neighborhood. School children left flowers and trinkets at his grave. After an order was secured from Orphan Court, the body was exhumed November 3rd of 1998. The boy was brought to surface with the help of the FBI evidence recovery team with hand tools and a backhoe that ripped into the earth which had surrounded him for decades. He was reburied at Ivy Hill Cemetery November 11th of 1998, where under a blue sky, after clouds and rain had cleared, police chaplains of various faiths offered prayers, and one long bagpiper played Going Home. Weinstein, a pallbearer at the reburial, gave the boy a military salute as the casket was lowered for his last time. The casket plot, gravestone, and services were all donated. The new black septine grave marker engraved with the lamb reads America's Unknown Child. The overrun thicket where the boy was found is now a residential area with brick row houses. The child is still listed on police records as unidentified boy, and the case, like all those investigated as homicides, remains open. It also being kept alive by Vid Society, a Philadelphia-based organization of active and retired law enforcement, forensic, and other crime experts who try to solve cold cases. The inscription on the new marker symbolizes the nation's abused, missing, and murdered children, said Vid Commissioner William Flesher, a former Philadelphian policeman, FBI agent, and U.S. Customs Special Agent who is now a private investigator. The boy is in everyone's heart. Yeah, there's many children out there who are identified still, who have been either murdered and things like that. I think to this day, I don't remember how much it was. I Googled it earlier, but there's a lot of missing cold cases children that are named. They're not named America's Unknown Child. They're named Jane Doe or John Doe. And there is some at the burial sites who are just plotted there. And it's just literally just says Jane Doe from their year to year. A lot of cold cases. A year after the re-interment, the Vids Society placed a small granite park bench near the grave for visitors who sometimes leave flowers or toys for the boy. Once again, the day started out cold with a hint of rain, but the sun shone through the time. By the time the ceremony started, there's space on the new grave marker for the boy's name. Kazu, who oversees Philadelphia cold cases, says it's unlikely this one will be solved, though the department would keep trying. It gets to a point where you don't know where else to take the investigation, Kazu said, but you always keep an open mind. Police opened to establish a DNA profile after exhumation in order to link or rule out any prospective relatives, but they hadn't succeeded so far because the boy's bone fragments and other genetic materials were so degraded after all this time. Fletcher and Augustine believe there is someone out there, perhaps a relative who knows the truth and can still come forward. Investigators who worked the case when it was fresh and who are working it cold agree that what matters most is not just about solving the case, Kazu said, it's about giving the boy an identity and a name. Well, they ended up giving him a name, and I have that here. But I think not with just this case. I think they should start looking back more into like cold cases where they can like start looking and identifying all the other children's cases who are cold, who went cold. Not even children, possibly even adults. I mean, there's cold cases of adults as well. Okay, so I'm going to read you this article. Let me clear out some tabs. So, this was published back in December of 2022. So 65 years later, they ended up identifying the boy in the box, America's Unknown Child, America's Lost Child. The boy, or they used to call him Boy Box or Box Boy. The boy in the box, boy of the box. He had various nicknames. His name is Joseph Augustus Zarelli. And this is the picture that they made of him. So America's Unknown Child is no more. The former boy in the box has been identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born January 13 of 1953. Colleen Fitzpatrick, Misty Gills, and Identifiers International identified not only Joseph, but also the boy's now deceased birth mother and father, as well as living siblings on both sides. That's crazy. So basically, technology we have now, they can possibly solve more cold cases that have gone super cold. If they could do it with Joseph, I'm sure they can do it with any other cases. They're coming for the cold cases with all DNA websites now. The genealogy, they're going to catch or reveal a lot of people, in my opinion. Yeah. And I can't wait to see them do that because there's a lot of cold cases and I'm like, I forgot what case it was that went cold, and I was like, oh, they need to start looking into it now. look at all this technology we have. Like, I'm pretty sure they can find it. I forgot what case it was. It was like a really old case. This was the most challenging case of my whole career. So we've talked about it. On February 25th, 1957, they found his naked, badly bruised body. He was found stuffed in a cardboard box in the wooded area of Philadelphia Fox Chase neighborhood. The boy was malnourished and bore both old trauma and new injuries, indicating he had been beaten to death. Now, that right there is why I don't believe the whole situation that the medical examiner said, how he's like, oh, maybe they're just going to bury him. Maybe they were just getting ready to bury him and they got scared. No, homie. Look, he was badly bruised. He was malnourished. He was like He was bore. He had old trauma and new injuries. He was beaten to death. You ain't no way they were trying to bury him. They were trying to discard him like trash. They threw him with trash. In his very short life, it was apparent that the child experienced horrors and that no one should ever be subjected to. Forensic scientists and investigators employed many avenues of possible identification in 1957, including newspaper ads, posters, footprint matching. Police spoke to local hospitals under the assumption the boy had at least one surgery thanks to IV marks found on his arm during autopsy. They also checked orphanage and foster home. The medical examiner's office dressed the boy and released post-mortem photographs, hoping to trigger someone's memory. They also made a mask that was brought along whenever there was potential lead. They made a mask of him? That's crazy. I would think they would carry like a picture of him. However, nothing led to a possible identification. And the still unidentified boy was then buried in Pottersfield. And then 40 years later, in 1988, they ended up taking him out just to get some DNA from him. And then they reburied him where he is now, I think. And then in 2018, forensic genealogy bust into the scene and changed everything. Soon after, the Philadelphia Police Department of Forensic Science implemented a forensic genealogy program to assist in dozens of unidentified human remains or unknown suspect cases, Joseph being one of them. On April 29 of 2019, Joseph's body was exhumed again, and it was determined the portion of his remains stored at the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office was insignificant for modern DNA analysis. This time, enough DNA was extracted for testing. However, the DNA was not ideal. It took 2.5 years to get DNA to a point where he could generate SMP data for genealogy. Once the data finally came back, Misty, identifier senior forensic genealogist and code case Legion, worked day and night to get that boy his identity back. That's crazy. Eventually, hold on. Okay. Eventually, Fitzpatrick and Gills gave the Philadelphia Police Department leads for the maternal side of the child's family. Detectives made contact with the family, obtaining a DNA sample from a living relative. After further testing, Fitzpatrick and Gills were able to confirm the identity of the birth mother. With the name in hand, detectives found 3 birth certificates for the established mother in the time frame between 1944 and 1956. 2 certificates were for living children previously known to investigators. The third was for a male born in 1953, consistent with the approximate age of the boy. Additionally, the name of the child's birth father was listed on the birth certificate. Based on research by detectives and genealogists, a candidate was established as the possible birth father. After making contact with and testing the child's paternal side, both Fitzpatrick and Gills were able to establish the identity of the birth father and confirm it was the same male listed on the birth certificate. This has also meant they had name for the little boy, although no social security card was ever issued for Joseph Augustus Zarelli. Captain John Smith of Philadelphia Police Homicide Unit said they would not be naming Joseph's birth mother and father, although he did confirm they are both deceased. However, Joseph has living siblings on both sides. Smith did not provide their names or information either, citing the fact that Joseph's murder is an ongoing criminal investigation. We have our suspicions as to who may be responsible, but it would be irresponsible of me to share these suspicions as it remains an active and ongoing criminal investigation. We're hoping to receive an avalanche of tips from this press conference. Someone in their mid to late 70s or 80s who remembers that child. Smith confirmed Joseph lived the 4 short years of his life in West Philadelphia, not too far from where his body was found. We may not make an arrest. We may never make an identification of the killer, but we're going to do our darnest to try. So basically, what they did was they ended up finding his name. Besides that, they found living siblings of him. They found his mother and his father, but they're not going to tell us who it is. I guess because they don't want people to go and threaten the living siblings. But I think they have to be like in their 80s or 90s, maybe 70s, perhaps. Now in 2025, maybe a little bit older. Did I skip? Okay, there it goes. The identification of Joseph Augustus Zarelli represents the first identification of human remains using genetic genealogy as a result of the Forensic Genealogy Program at the Philadelphia Police Department Office of Forensic Science. Ryan Gallagher, a criminalistic unit manager at the Office of Forensic Science, said the program has tested dozens of cases ranging in years from 1957, which was Joseph's case, to 2022. While this is the first, it's definitely not the last, said Gallagher. Our goal for the project is that there will never be another identified homicide victim, in the city of Philadelphia. We have established a process for all new and unidentified remains and are working through the records for all previous homicide that may be eligible for this program. We may not obtain the lofty goal of 100%, but the identification of America's unknown child straightens us. Fitzpatrick agrees that the case may have been the hardest of their career, but the successful outcome is giving her hope. Every case we solve, we learn something from the past. We learn something that pays forward to the next one, she says. The technology we push forward is giving hope to other unidentified victims whose DNA is thought to be beyond the modern horizon of technology. Maybe it isn't after all. Well, finally, they found his identity, but 65 years later, that is crazy. Let's watch this video where residents gather to celebrate his birthday. If it loads. Hopefully there's no ads. Okay, there's an ad. If you hear noises, they're still popping fireworks here. Are any of y'all's neighbors popping fireworks besides mine? I'm like, yesterday was 4th of July. You should have done all those fireworks yesterday, not today and yesterday. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I don't know what they're going to show, but. So, back of last year, 2024, everybody went out to celebrate his 71st birthday. Finally, we can now put a name to America's unknown child, America's lost child, the boy in the box. His name is Joseph Augustus Zarelli. He was only 4 years old when he was found badly bruised and inside the box in a wooded area in Philadelphia. They finally made a good picture of him. I will share this picture. Back then in 1957, they kind of had to get his picture, his post-mortem picture, and post it for people to try to identify him, to try to be like, hey, I know who that kid is, you know. If you want to see the original flyer or those pictures, it's in my Discord. He has his own little section. You can look at it. I'm happy they finally got his name. He finally has a name. I'm still kind of sad because I want justice for him. I want to know who did this to him, what happened to him. We're just going off based how detectives saw him. He was malnourished. He was beaten. I want to know what happened to Joseph, and I want justice for Joseph. So hopefully now in 2025, they can kind of start looking back into the case and try to figure out what happened to Joseph. I don't know. My opinion, allegedly, I'm going to say maybe it was his parents. You know, this right here gives me kind of a little thing why it could be his parents. Like Kitty Q said, he was under the supervision of his parents and his parents only. Maybe his parents gave him up to a grandma, grandpa who could have, you know, done these things to him. But I don't know. The malnourished and beaten to death part, I don't know. It's giving me the vibe of maybe allegedly his parents did do this, and they just threw him like trash and never said anything. But I do want to know is if there was reports of his parents trying to make a missing persons report or missing child report for him back in 1957 when he went missing. That's what I want to know. Did they ever make a police report? If they didn't, that shows you that maybe they did do it. I don't know. In my opinion, that it's going to show me maybe they did have something to do with it, because any parent would make a missing person report. Look at Jennifer Soto. I mean, you cannot tell me. I still think Jennifer Soto knew something about it, but she did a missing parents report. I don't know. It's just something that's telling me maybe, you know, his parents allegedly had something to do with it, or possibly allegedly did it. But as of now, his parents are both deceased, so it was one of his parents. Even if they did, the responsibility lays on them. Yeah, that part. That. What Kitty Q said, that. Yep. I believe you. I 100% agree with you. What is this? I don't know what came up on my screen. Just. I'm sitting kind of weird. Do I have anything on him? I don't. Okay. Now, we're going to switch gears for our second and last half of our live stream. My prayers and condolences for Joseph. I hope one day they do find out what happened to Joseph. I think it was his parents, and sadly they did pass away, so they really can't put charges on the parents. But I just want to know, I think we all want to know what happened to Joseph. You know, we want a timeline. You know, all we know is that they found him in a wooded area where he was malnourished and looked like he was beaten to death. It took them 65 years to put a name finally to him. May you rest in peace, Joseph, and hopefully one day we can find out what happened to you, and justice for you. I mean, it is so sad. That poor boy. Now, yesterday, after we talked about the Kerrville flooding, we talked a little bit about what Janelle had sent us. So if you don't know, we talked about two men who were, well, one man, his name was, I think, what was his name? Hold on. Let me just play the video because I forgot his name. I know it was Dale, but let me let the commercial play out. So this happened in Australia, where a child care worker is being charged with 70 child X offenses, and now they're making 1,200 kids get tested for sexually transmitted diseases. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. Janelle had recommended it to us. So, and when she did, she was like, "You're gonna get so mad because of what it says." And I was like, "Why? What does it say?" And then like we saw it and I got really mad because I was like, no. Oh, you're welcome. So let's see this.
Just at a news conference outlining the details in this case, Rochelle, police have arrested a 26-year-old man.
Well, Tash, Joshua Brown has been charged with 70 offences in total, including child rape. The offences relate to 8 alleged victims between just 5 months and 2 years old. Those children were in the care of an early learning centre at Point Cook in Victoria's southwest between April 2022 and January 2023. Now, police are also looking into evidence relating to a second childcare centre 30 k's away in Essendon. The accused has worked at more than 20 childcare centres across Victoria since 2017. He held a valid working with children's check, which has obviously now been cancelled. Police applied for a suppression order to be lifted this morning, allowing the accused to be identified to the public for the first time.
This is unique. It's very important to ensure that every parent out there that has a child in childcare knows who he is and where he worked.
I'm sickened by these allegations of abuse. They are shocking and distressing, and my heart just breaks for the families who are living every parent's worst nightmare. And as a parent too, I can only imagine the unbearable grief and pain the affected families are experiencing right now.
And Rochelle, health authorities are also urging parents of 1,200 children to receive a test for infectious diseases.
Well, Tash, this is a complex public health response. More than 2,000 families who attended childcare centres while the accused was working there have been contacted so far. Authorities are recommending around 1,200 children undergo testing for infectious diseases. The state's chief health officer wouldn't detail the specifics of the infectious disease or how they reached that particular number, but he did stress the infection was one that could be treated with antibiotics. The health department anticipates this testing may take days or even weeks.
You know, this is a horrible, confronting, distressing situation, and this adds a more distressing element to it.
The accused has been remanded in custody and he will appear back in court in September. Tash.
Rochelle, thank you.
Well, there's this. So fucking sickening. Yeah. I think Janelle had said he put his bodily fluids inside the kids' food. That's disgusting. They arrested him. I think his name was something Dale. I don't remember his name. But they also arrested a second man as well. I think Janelle said the first one, he was gay. So let's watch this one.
some breaking news and a warning. This story contains details of alleged child sexual abuse and other serious sexual offences. Police investigating a Melbourne childcare worker accused of scores of child sex crimes have charged a second man with serious offences, including bestiality. Michael Simon Wilson of Wyndham Vale is also facing charges related to child abuse material and sex offences. That's according to the Melbourne Magistrates Court. Well, the Victorian Government has launched an urgent review into safety at childcare centres, and questions are being raised about checks and oversight after yesterday's shocking revelations of alleged sexual abuse by a Victorian childcare worker. Reporter Stephanie Ferrier joins us now live from Melbourne. Steph, we've just had that breaking news in just a few moments before we came on air. Can you just take us through it?
Yes, good afternoon, Ros. This is incredibly distressing for so many parents out here in Victoria to discover that police have now charged that second man. Now, as you mentioned, his name is Michael Simon Wilson. He is of Wyndham Vale, and we understand that these charges are completely separate to those that are being faced by Joshua Dale Brown, the 26-year-old from Point Cook, who was the subject of the initial police investigation. Police have said that the two men aren't known to each other. However, we aren't aware in what capacity at this stage.
We've just heard from Victoria's Premier. What did she have to say?
Yes, so she, of course, reiterated how heartbroken she was for the families of these alleged victims and how difficult and a distressing time it is for parents across the board in Victoria. And she has actually announced that they are going to move forward with a ban on electronic personal devices in childcare centres across Victoria. Now, this previously was a voluntary code. It is now going to be enforceable with a penalty of a $50,000 fine to those childcare centre operators that do not carry out this ban, and that is going to come into effect in September. She furthermore announced that there was going to be a rapid review into the childcare sector as well. Now, this is separate to the independent regulator, or the early childhood regulator, who is launching an urgent investigation into the conduct of those operators of childcare centres where Joshua Dale Brown worked at, remembering that there were some 20 centres that he worked at over the course of those several years. Now, this review, she says, is going to be having a look at all of the regulatory framework and what might be able to be done for urgent safeguards. Now, this is going to have a new head for that review that will be announced at some stage this week, and they are anticipating that this short, sharp review will continue out and then give results which will be provided to the government by Friday the 15th of August. Now, that will look at situations and potential possibilities like installing CCTV at childcare centres. But this is what she had to say about those measures that she has urgently adopted now.
Families must be able to trust that their children are safe when they are placed in the care in childcare centres. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that parents can trust the system. I appreciate there is a substantial amount of work that is already underway across the Commonwealth and state and territory governments to strengthen the safety in the sector. Here in Victoria, though, I won't wait. Families cannot wait. More needs to happen now, and that is why, in acknowledging that there is work to create a national register of childcare workers, more needs to happen now, and why we will start building the Victorian register to give families an extra layer of checks and balances as soon as possible.
That's the Premier Jacinta Allen speaking there, and she has also announced a $5,000 immediate needs payment for affected families to be able to take that time off work and also assist with their children. And we've also heard from the Children's Services Minister, Lizzie Blanthorne, as well. She says that this is all part of discussions that have been involved with Jason Clare, the Federal Education Minister, as well as her state and territory counterparts. But she says clearly there is a much more needed approach in terms of it being a national framework and also national guidelines and enforcement. This is what she had to say.
There is national reform work underway, but as the Premier said, it is frustratingly slow, and this is something we have expressed over the past months and weeks, and certainly something that I expressed last Friday. We need to see tangible outcomes sooner.
So that's Lizzie Blanthorne, the Children's Services Minister, speaking there just a short time ago. And we also have been given a little bit of an update by Victoria's Chief Health Officer, Dr. Christian McGrath, who says that testing is continuing for those 1,200 children that the health authorities have identified and recommended as requiring testing for infectious diseases.
Steph, thank you. And if this story has raised any issues for you, you can get help by calling the National Sexual Assault and Family Violence Counselling Helpline on 1800 RESPECT, which...
Yes. Where was this beforehand? Why is that? Why is that every time something goes down, they all of a sudden they want to do stricter policies? They want to put this and that. Like the school shootings, for example. There's been multiple school shootings and they've been talking about, oh, we're going to add metal detectors. Oh, we're going to do this. Oh, we're going to do that. Oh, stricter security. Why has that have never been there in the first place? You could have prevented this a long time ago. It's the same thing with this. Why wasn't there CCTV? Why wasn't there stricter policies before all this happened? You could have prevented this a long time ago. Why is that? I always wanted to know, why is it always stricter policies after something like this happens? Why? Why couldn't you do it in the first place? Like, jeez. Okay. Let me see. This is an article. I just don't get it. They could have done something before all this happened. I just don't get it. Okay, what's this? Oh, I think she had it on a specific part she wanted me to read. Hold on. Okay. Oh, okay. I see why she started right there. We all know evil people exist. Why does it take so long to make a policy to protect kids? That right there. That right there is it. You said it 100%. 100%. We aren't stupid. They basically allow this kind of behavior. Kitty Q, you're on a roll. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. She is on it. She's on point. So I think this is what Janelle wanted me to read because it came just to this specific part. So the child care centers where alleged offender worked. So I think it's basically gonna show us where he worked prior to this. Okay. So let's get into it. I had to pick my hair up. He worked at Nino Early Learning Adventures from January 2017 to June 2019. He worked at Explorers Early Learning from August 2019 to October 2019. Casually worked November 2019 and December 2019. Adventures Education from November 2019 through July 2020. Only About Children from October 2020 to March 2021. Wallaby Child Care Center from April 2021 to May 2021. Nitto Early Learning School from June 2021 to July 2021. Creative Garden from October 2021 to February 2024. Leopold World of Learning from February 23rd to February 23rd. He only worked there like a few days. Greenpoint from February 23rd to March 2020, or February 2023 to March 2023. Little Bloom Blossoms, August. Wait, he only worked a few days at Leopold. Then the next day, after he'd left, he worked at Greenpoint. Now here, same thing. He worked at Little Blossoms for only a few days. Here, he only worked almost a month at Dots. Aussie Kitties. He worked a few days, the same thing. Here too, he only worked a few days. He only worked one day here at Milestones. Here he worked for a good while. He only worked one day here, okay. A few days here. One day. A couple of weeks and one day. Why? Was he like, did they not question him why? Or like, was he like those, like, is it in the same facility? Like, are they all under one like company and they're just different like childcare under one branch? Like there's different child daycares under one main branch. Like, how does that work? Seriously, I don't get it. Our government knows this shit and just pushes it aside. It's bigger, in my opinion, or there would be stricter punishment. Exactly. I feel like our government doesn't do shit. Just like our governor. Our governor here in Texas is a piece of shit. But that's a different story for another time to talk about him. I don't get it. They don't question him? Like, okay, are they in the same... Are these all under the same branch, just different places? Because, I mean, some of them he only worked one day, and then he worked at a different one. That's what I want to know. Sorry. Like, what the heck? Parents and coworkers struggle to come to terms with alleged child X offenses as more information comes to light. So, for more than a year, Jessica worked in childcare alongside Joshua Dale Brown and trusted him to look after her own children. I don't know what that was. They would take turns changing nappies, coordinate meal times, and make small talk about their family and friends. She remembers sitting with him and singing Christmas carols with the kids. Warning, this story contains details of alleged... Yet she has now spent some days consumed with guilt tears since discovering the Melbourne child worker had been charged with more than 70 child X offenses that allegedly occurred at the same center, Creative Garden Early Learning Center. The times when I worked in the room with him, I've been playing the scenario in the back of my head, like, did I miss stuff, she says. She's among the distressed parents who said they were desperate to know if their children have been put at risk. They told ABC this week that they have been left feeling confused by communications from authorities and abandoned by center operators. Parents are demanding to know how is it possible for vulnerable infants and toddlers to be abused in a business whose key promise is to keep them safe. Well, shit like this, you don't freaking put like strict enforcements on this. When parents drop their kids off at daycare, they trust workers with their children's safety, development, and well-being. If the allegations are proven, not only has the trust been betrayed, it has been abused in the most appalling way. The matter also raises questions about the entire childcare business models in Australia and how it's regulated. Now, the most important question: what needs to be done to keep kids safe at childcare? Oh, I don't know. Maybe you should have done this a long time ago, not now. CCTV cameras, stricter security, put security there. You know, stricter rules, you know, many other things. Our system is broken when it comes to these cases. Yeah. Definitely. On Tuesday, Victorian police announced Mr. Brown, a 26-year-old Point Cook man, has been arrested and charged with more than 70 offenses, including actual penetration of a child under 12, actual assault, and producing material. Police says the charges related to eight alleged victims who were at the Point Cook child care between April 22 and January 2023. They were between 5 months and 2 years of age. Mr. Brown began working in childcare in 2017 after leaving the Emmanuel College Catholic School in Point Cook. His last shift at Northern Suburbs Child Care Center just came days before police took him into custody in May. His arrest didn't stem from a complaint from a parent or a tip-off from a child care, police says. Instead, it originated from an investigation into alleged actual abuse of a teenage boy in Hoppers Crossing weeks earlier. Detectives examined the device of 36-year-old Michael Simon Wilson, who had been charged with the assault, along with offenses related to material and bestiality, allegedly discovered material linking him to Mr. Brown. So basically, they didn't arrest him just off the bat. They found him because of this guy. He was trying to have relations, or he actually assaulted a teenage boy. So they discovered, hey, there's another guy out there. His name's Brown. I think his name was Dale Brown. Let's check him out. And they found out, this is what he was doing behind closed doors. Mr. Wilson does not work in childcare, but police allege the men are known to each other, and both are due to appear in court in September. This is the Napoleon guy I was saying last night. He looks like a off-brand of Napoleon. For those who knew them as if they were men, suddenly moved on with their lives. In May, Mr. Brown and his housemate told their landlord they didn't wish to renew the lease on the modest home in Point Cook. They rented out for nearly 2 years. What surprised me is they were going to stay there, the landlord tells ABC. They were always asking if we were going to put up the rent, and we hadn't. The landlord says the pair moved out, and Mr. Brown's mother committed to pay the rent for the 3 months until the lease ended. Around that time, Mr. Wilson suddenly resigned from the amateur radio club where he had been president for just 6 months. I don't know what that was. He just said he wasn't coming anymore and resigned the position, a club member tells ABC. What is this? I don't know what that was. Anyways, I just don't get it. Did I not mention yesterday that there's evil, cruel, disgusting pedos, creepers, ex-offenders in the world, and they're hidden in plain sight? And some of them are getting smarter by trying to hide in plain sight, and some of them are just getting dumber, where we can obviously know who is a pedo. So I don't see why the world isn't doing something, like our government or even facilities are upping the security or doing something to prevent something like this from happening, whether it's actual assault in churches, daycares, elderly care, the school shootings is another one as well. Why aren't they doing things in the school? Why aren't they doing what I want to know, excuse my language, what the fuck are they doing? Where is my tax money going to? That's what I want to know. You're making me pay all this money for taxes. I would think maybe you would use my tax money to protect these innocent kids. I want to know where it's going to. I want my tax money to go to this, to put stricter policies, to put strict things to prevent something like this to happen ever again. That's what I want to know. Oh my God. They're mostly perverts. You get more time for drugs than you do harming your child. Exactly. there's not much to get. They get away with it. It's been happening forever. Yeah. This has been happening for a long time. But I just don't get. They always say they're going to do this and this and this and this and this. They don't do it, and then something else happens. They come back and they're like, oh, back to what we were saying. We're going to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And it never happens. It's like a cycle. Like, okay, this happens. Oh, we're going to do stricter policy rules. We're going to, I think Janelle sent one that says like, oh, men are not going to be allowed to change their nappies and do this. Boom. So God forbid, hopefully it doesn't. It happens again. They come back out. Oh, we're going to do this and this and this and this, and we promise you that. Boom. God forbid it doesn't happen. It happens again. Like, it's like a cycle. It's a toxic cycle that keeps happening. Like, are you freaking kidding me? They is the key word. Who are they is the best question. Yeah. I just don't. I'm like very angry at this. Like, these are innocent little babies. Like, these are innocent kids. Like, they didn't deserve that. They didn't. They really didn't. I mean, even the teenage boy didn't deserve that either. Like, are you freaking kidding me? I want to come back to this for sure. I want to come back and I want to do a live dedicated to this case. And I want to compare it to another case that I was looking at today as well. And I want you to see the differences in it. It's just, it breaks my heart, you know? These poor innocent kids didn't deserve this at all. We know who they are. It's just beyond our control. Yeah, definitely. What time is it? What am I? An hour in? An hour 42? About to be 2 hours. All right. I'm gonna dedicate a day where we talk about that case and many more. We're gonna just have it's gonna be a deep talk about it. I'm only ending it kind of early, just because I don't know if OB is gonna come live, but this is her channel. If you guys, oh, thank you. I try my best, even though I stutter and like make up my own words. I'm trying here. Here's Oblivious Benson's channel. If you want to go and subscribe to her, I don't know if she's gonna come on live. Usually she comes on the weekends and she comes on around this time, so that's why I'm kind of ending it kind of early. But I do want to come back to what Janelle sent us, and I want to talk about that and many other cases involving the daycare system and some elderly care stories. I found one today of an elderly center, and things I heard, like I read about it, it boiled my blood so much, and it was so disgusting. We're going to talk about that. But the next time I come back, I'm not coming on tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. I got to do some spring cleaning because we had some we had rain, so I couldn't really go out and clean the yard. So tomorrow is yard day for me. And then of course I work. So I'll be back on, what is that? The 10th? July 10th. I don't know. Who am I talking about? July 10th. Hang on. Let me see. July 10th, I have another live. That'll be next week. Who am I talking about? The 10th. Oh, I'm talking about on the 10th. I'm talking about unsolved bizarre true crime cases. And then that weekend, the 11th and 12th, the 11th, we'll be talking about the Son of Sam. Have you guys ever heard of the Son of Sam's? David Richard Berkowitz. And then the next day, we are going to talk about America's Most Hated Mother, No, not Jennifer Soto. I'm talking about Casey Anthony. We're going to talk about Casey Anthony next week. And then I'll start putting out the following lives. I was going to do the Golden State Killer yesterday, but since the flooding happened, I thought, let me just go live and talk about the flooding. I will put more updates as they give us updates on the flooding. I'm not going to put it on general chat. I'm going to put it in the Kerrville flooding section on Discord. So if you're on Discord, you'll see it. I don't want to keep adding you guys every time there's like a update and you guys are busy or something. So I'm just going to put it in their section. Yes, you too. You be safe and you watch your 6. Definitely. So I'll be back on the 10th and we'll talk about bizarre unsolved true crime cases like John Bennett Ransby, the Zodiac Killer, and many more. And then of course Saturday or Friday it'll be the Son of Sam's, David Berkowitz, and then Casey Anthony. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my live. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for being here tonight, Kitty Q. We love you. I love you. Be safe. Shout out to all my replay crew. You guys are the best. I hope you have a great weekend and a great semi-week. I'll be back Thursday. I love you all. You guys be safe. And I will see you guys on the next one. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.